You are now listening to ForAllNerds Show, a podcast about geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. ForAllNerds is hosted by DJ Ben Amin and Tatiana Keene Jones. ForAllNerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
ForAllNerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/ForAllNerds.
Welcome to the Fan Bros, the show where the bros are fans. Doodle.
And what's up, y'all, and welcome to this very special episode of the For All Nerds Show. The voice of the Urban Geek, the podcast where we discuss geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. And as always, in the captain's chair, it's your boy, DJ Ben Amin, a.k.a. A-Baby Max, Chris Radnarock, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Dr. Stephen Slane, the Sorcerer Supreme Clientele, Black Goliath, YOLO Baggins here in the spaceship tonight. And as always, I'm joined by
Tatiana King, a.k.a. the Ting of the North, a.k.a. Tatiana Kang the Conqueror, a.k.a. T'Challa Bread, a.k.a. Flex Luthor, a.k.a. Gucci Mane DeLorean, a.k.a. the Book of Ashanti. And I'm here as well, Ben Amin.
You're here. You're back.
I'm back.
Good to see you.
Back. With Mojicanata Lasia pack, bro.
Yeah, that pack. Back off that pack, as they say.
Some
And we
Last of Us
are
humor.
back. Yeah, a little Last of Us, a little 420. Yeah, well, anyway,
We're
we're
not
back
420
here. Yeah. Not just yet, not yet, but it seems to be in the air, as Don Lemon would say. But we're back here on the For All Nerds Show. And, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome back to all of our listeners, to all the new people out there. Thank you. We're here once again. It's a very special episode. We're going to be talking about a little movie we got to see, or some of us got to see, as the case may be.
About that.
Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves. Or Honor
Honor Among Thieves.
Honor Among Thieves? Or,
Yes,
yeah, Honor
Thieves.
Among. Honor
You
Among
gotta-
Thieves.
Well,
Thieves.
If it's thieves, it's Thieves, because that's where I'm from, Brooklyn. So we pronounce it
Lighter Thief.
Flatbush Thief.
Yes, Lighter Thief. Match Crook.
Oh God, yeah, Ben. We saw. Y'all. We saw the new Dungeons and Dragons film. I found out this is like the 4th or 5th Dungeons and Dragons film, technically.
Word?
So,
I know. Too.
Yeah. So apparently there was a bunch in the 2000s, and like at least 2 of them was like direct to video.
Yeah.
type shit.
Okay. I believe that. Okay. Because there's the
Yeah.
Marlon Wayans joint. I know that. That was in
Now
theaters.
that's what fucking shocked me, because that was the first one when I was looking it
Yeah.
up, and it said Marlon Wayans. I said Marlon Wayans.
Marlon Wayans.
What was that
playing
about? And why? What did he play?
The Thief. Of course, he was black.
Wait,
I mean, what would you expect in the 2000s?
wait, I'm trying to Google it, and you just saying this shit.
Look, that's what Chico Leo told me. Chico Leo was there in the house last night. Shouts to the Chico Leo, the legend, For All Nerds. Long-time listeners will know who I'm talking about. He was there last night. He peeped it with me. And he told me that Marlon Wayans played the Thief. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah, so that one came out. Well, I don't know if that was specific was Marlon's, but there was one that came out in the 2000, literally the year 2000. Then there was one that came out 2005. Another one came out 2012. And they was keeping track, because they said the 2012 one was the 3rd one. So I had no fucking clue. And then it's this one. So apparently 4. Have you been following any of these films?
Hell to the no. Like, for what? Like, I lead a interesting
Have you even
life.
seen the Marlon Wayans version?
Parts.
How was it?
In parts. I can't judge that movie. I
How
barely
was
saw
it, the parts that you saw?
I can't remember, dog. That's one of
Okay.
the movies that was like on cable or something. It was like,
Okay. It wasn't even like a full, like,
oh hell
go to the
no.
movies thing.
No, I never tried to, I never attempted to be like, let me go watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie with Marlon Wayans in it.
Well, when you say it like that, Ben, I mean,
That was never my plan. Look, I love Marlon Wayans in a lot of films, But it just ain't gonna be a Dungeons and Dragons movie with Marlon Wayans, and I'm going, no, that's not the one I'm gonna hunt down.
All right. Well, apparently I guess we hunted down this one.
I barely would have hunted down this one.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because this it's and first of all, it's called Honor Among Thieves.
So it is with an S. Thieves.
Yeah, Thieves, man. And it's starring Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Reggae Jean Paul, right?
Is it? No, it's not. Don't please tell me that man's name is not Reggae.
R-E-G apostrophe.
Reggie.
R-E-G-E apostrophe.
Reggie.
Reggae.
Yeah, it is not reggae.
I've heard it pronounced reggae too.
No, it ain't.
Not like reggae music. Calm down. Calm down. Jesus.
But the dance hall king up in here. Oh man.
Reggae Jean Page. But,
yeah, there we go. Reggae. Not reggae.
Reggae
Jean
Page.
Page. Not reggae John.
Yeah, but Justice Smith, who actually played the kid in the Detective Pikachu movie. So I thought
he was also in the latest Jurassic Park.
Oh, which I didn't watch though.
Which I did. Unfortunately.
Did you like it? No, he said unfortunately. Okay. Hugh Grant and then a bunch of other people were in the film.
Yes, a bunch of other people. That's
I don't
all?
know these people. Yeah, no, I was just
shout out to Sophia Lillis, who's also in the joint. She's one of the party members.
Sophia
she plays
Lillis.
a druid, and I really liked her in the joint. But yeah, we were saying, I would not have hunted this down. I just know, okay, I'm a lifelong fan of Dungeons and Dragons, y'all. Even before comic books, Dungeons and Dragons. Well, Star Wars is my initial introduction to geekdom. That's like, it begins and ends with Star Wars. But then the first, I read a lot of fantasy books even before that, I think. But Dungeons and Dragons was like the first thing where I was like, oh, I'm a geek. You know what I mean? Because that's like some real super geek shit. And I knew doing it was some super geek shit, but I loved it. You know, and this was like early basic edition for those who know. The original Dungeons and Dragons, the red and blue books, like shit's is worth dumb money right now. If I had them, I wish. I don't. All that up to second edition, I was still rocking heavy. You know, the cartoon on TV, that was a lot of people's introduction to the 80s. If you were up in the 80s, that's like a lot of people's introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. I love that joint.
There was a TV show.
Yeah, it was a cartoon.
Oh,
it's a cartoon from the 80s. They referenced it in the film. Oh, spoiler. We'll bleep that out.
No, that's not really a spoiler.
Yeah, it's been in the commercial.
This is reference, but the fact that you just said there's references doesn't mean anything.
True indeed. Well, the 80s cartoon was a lot of people's introduction, but Dungeons and Dragons was just heavy for me. That's what got me into Warhammer, got me into pretty much role-playing games in general, and every other role-playing game that I played, which was a multitude of them. So I go back with this joint, you know, so I was not expecting anything because, you know, there was the joint with Marlon Wayans where,
right,
from what people said, it was not that good.
But Marlon Wayans notwithstanding, I thought, like, when I first started hearing rumblings of this, I knew that about your background, about the stuff you like in D&D and all that. So I was sure that you would be the first one talking about, take me to this film.
Nah.
And it was kind of the opposite. You were like, well, you know, if I get a chance to see it, I'll see it. But I was like, I mean, go ahead. You could continue, but I didn't really have much of a.
It's also because my geekdom with Dungeons and Dragons is so deep, right? Like I'm a fiend of the Dragonlance series, and also the Forgotten Realms with Raceland. I mean, not Raceland is Dragonlance. Drizzt Do'Urden from the Forgotten Realms. He's a Drow elf character. He's super popular. I think there's a video game finally coming with him. I can't remember, but. That is my dude, you know, Drizzt the Crystal Shard series, all that. That's where I go back to. And then Dragonlance is my other one. These are two different worlds, Dragonlance and the Forgotten Realms. But those are my two big, fiendoms. And since this movie wasn't based on either, I was just like, this is just going to be some, you know, this some shit for the kids. You know, this ain't this ain't the hardcore shit that I want, you know. And so that's what I wasn't really that hype about it.
Well.
Wow, I just realized how much of a Dungeons and Dragons, you know, Jesus.
Okay, so
my geekdom runs deep with everything.
My geekdom was at -10 for this because I don't know shit about shit when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, that's a Dungeons and Dragons metaphor right there.
Oh, really?
Reference. Yeah, you know, most things are +5 or negative. Like,
Well,
you have
I get that from RPGs in general, but I know that's also
Dungeons
stems
Dragons,
from
heavy
tabletop. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so like I'm an RPG girl all day, but I mean gaming RPGs like Final Fantasies and things like that.
You never played Baldur's Gate? That was a dope one.
Nah.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate was a dope PC Dungeons and Dragons game.
Nah. Yeah, and
Super
then
dope.
you know, like some PC, I forgot like the very first one. It was something where I like accidentally drowned a guy in like 5 minutes. So I was like, all right. So but that and I was saying like so me going in this, like I don't know shit about shit when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. I have no frame of reference whatsoever, right? So I didn't judge it bad or good. I was just like, I have no fucking clue what I'm getting myself into. You know, we got invited. So I said, all right, I'm gonna see this and see what's up. And I was pretty much an open book at that point. I was just like, let's do it, you know? And I have some thoughts. Well, maybe I should put the disclaimer out there before I get too deep into things. I unfortunately was only able to see like half the movie because I became unwell halfway through and had to leave. I had to exit stage left. So I'm going to have to watch it again at another time on my own time and maybe come back with an update. But I'm just going to give y'all, when we go through this, how I feel about the half that I did see.
Bit of that tangy sickness, as they say.
Yes.
So, overall, like I say, I was not that hype about it. I was like, okay, thank you, for those who sent us in and let us see this joint, because that's probably the only way I would have seen it until it was on streaming. And my overall thoughts are I really enjoyed it. Like,
good. Chico Leo enjoyed it too, I heard.
Yes, the Chico Leo thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And he had bigger reservations than I did. He was not anticipating anything. And I really enjoyed it. I think overall it is a mix of the Guardians of the Galaxy formula with the Fast and the Furious formula, which is basically centered on family, and the Marvel formula in general for the first few phases, which was centered around broken characters coming together and finding ways to overcome their brokenness together as a family. So it's heavy on that. Like
family.
There's and the Marvelness. There's direct references to Marvel stuff. Some of the storytelling tricks and everything call back to Marvel. There's a very quick after the credits scene. I won't spoil anything about it. It's very quick. I'm not sure if there's two. Our screening ended immediately after the first one. So there's all these things that you've come to know from Marvel films. There's all the quips, all the characters are making jokes. They're not so much self-aware, but they're definitely, jokey about things. And I loved it. I loved it. But I was like, okay, I could see more from this franchise. And it hit all the sweet spots for the Dungeons and Dragons heads. And it's probably going to hit even more than I knew. Like, I caught a lot of references. There's a certain monster that at one point, I'm like, yo, what is that? And then the name popped in my head. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a fucking geek. Like, how did I remember this name of this monster from like 20 years ago before maybe even longer, before the characters even said it? Because it's just in me. So there's a lot of stuff like that. But there was other things I'm like, what is that? And I know other people are going to be like, oh shit, it's up, blah, blah. So there was a lot of that. The costumes, everything, the creatures all look very cool. There's some really fun references, and a huge cameo actor shows up at one point that, is not in anything I've seen before. Everyone in the theater kind of was like, oh, is that? Oh, that is. Oh, okay. And it was a great scene. So it did what it needed to do. It's a great setup for a Dungeons and Dragons franchise and solid joint. I left with no real complaints.
That's fantastic.
I'll get into some more stuff, that I liked and didn't like, after a while. But I definitely want to hear what,
what I thought about the half that I saw.
Yeah, and why it was a little less than half. I'll tell you, the movie does go on for a little bit.
Okay, well,
yes.
Thanks for letting me know. It was less than half because it was already a long time by the time I had to get up and dip. But
time was traveling in a weird way at that point.
So, well, first of all, I wasn't comfortable with the environment we were in. So we weren't in a regular theater. We were in one of these weird 4D theater spaces. And what that means is they just put more of like the canvas that you watch the film on, they put that on the sidewall so that instead of just watching, the screen in front of you, whatever degrees that is, you get more of a 180-degree field of vision. But it's not like a curved screen. It's like four corners, like a box that you're normally in the room. And so there's a very hard seam at the corners, and then the sidewalls, right? So they're what's the word? They're throwing this film. I don't know the word I'm looking for right now, but they're putting this film on the wall, and it's extending to each side of you. And the reason why I didn't like that because it was disorienting to me. Like even when it first starts, like they put up like this grid up, and they're like basically trying to train you to look. They like only look ahead and do this, and I didn't like all that. I just wanted to be in the regular fucking screen. I want either regular screen or IMAX. I don't like all this extra shit. That it was doing too much. And it just felt like it's like you're trying to force a VR experience on me without giving me the headset. I ain't like that. That's number one, okay? But that's not the fault of the film. I'm just letting y'all know I was uncomfortable in the environment, period.
The theater was packed.
I don't know about that, but it was enough people in there.
I mean, it was a pack in the theater.
Okay, better be. So that's one. Again, remember, I don't have frame of reference, which is fine, because there's lots of films I watch where I have no idea who's who, what's what, and that doesn't mean anything. That's most new films you see, right? Unless it's Marvel, right?
Yep.
I don't know if that harmed or hurt me, because I just felt lost during what I was watching. And what I mean by that is, it's not that it was hard to follow. Like point A led to point B, like it made sense logically, but it just didn't make sense for me from a storytelling perspective. I was like, why are they doing this? And it went from like, okay, we're together in a room, to we gotta go save somebody, to something's on fire. Like it was just for me, it was kind of abrupt, and I was just lost. Like, well, what's the driving force? Then I remember this is Dungeons and Dragons, shit just fucking happens. Fine, no problem. I did not like the dialogue. I didn't really like the dialogue, and particularly in especially the bulk of the half that I saw was exposition heavy. In fact, it was like that first 25 minutes was all fucking Chris Pine talking, and then you get the Dungeons and Dragons splash screen, and I was just like, oh, so we haven't even started the film yet.
Time was traveling different for us. It was not about 25
It was
minutes.
25 minutes. I actually looked on my watch, and that's how I knew. So I was like, okay. So like again,
He's not just talking either.
No, it's not like it's a black screen and I was talking, and you know that, Ben. I mean, yes, there's things happening on screen, but here's my thing. I don't like for long periods of time watching action or things. And when I say action, not an action scene, but things happening on screen. Okay. I don't like seeing action and someone talking over that action for very, very long periods of time. That annoyed me deeply, okay? And then the way the words were used, the dialogue, to give you my overall, I felt like someone gave ChatGPT instructions to make a film about like Dungeons and Dragons, and this is what it came out with. Now, clearly, I'm in the minority, because when you look on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see both critics and audience gave this over 90%. And that's why I said, you know what? I need to go back and watch the shit again, because the bit that I did see, I was not fucking feeling it.
The disrespect is real around here.
It felt like it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It felt like it just. Ben, I mean, let's go point by point. You mentioned you thought the costuming and all that was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was second rate. I thought the costuming was like the shit that got left behind on the other like Dungeons and Dragon type castle type shit movies. Like I felt like it was like, okay, this is all the shit that Game of Thrones did not use. Y'all could use this.
I mean, this is not a Game of Thrones or a Lord of the Rings level of production. Like Lord of the Rings,
you're right. It was $150 million budget. So
Lord of the Rings had.
Did they have more than that?
Probably
not Lord of the Rings, but
Game of Thrones was spending like what 20 an episode.
Maybe.
Like
But
in
to
episodes.
tell me 150 million is not enough. Wait. Are you saying, so are you agreeing, number one, that the costumes wasn't all that? Or
No,
because you're saying, well, they only had
I'm
150
saying it's
million.
not
I'm like, what? That's a lot of
saying
money.
it's nowhere I mean, you have to pay Chris Pine, et cetera. You got to remember, there's a lot of people involved in this. I'm saying that it's nowhere near on the level. I'm not going into this for the intricacy of a Game of Thrones or a Lord of the Rings. You know, Lord of the Rings had like a serious legacy to live up to where all the shit has to be perfect because that stuff is described in the books to a T. So I wouldn't, put that on these people, and I wasn't looking for that. I think
put what on people have decent costumes? I didn't say you had to have like. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying decent. I didn't even feel like they were decent.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree, homeboy.
That's fine.
I think they were like, I think they were solid. Like for what it is, I think they were. I don't think that these were like some. Oh my God, look at those costumes. But like one, I mean, they have. See, I can't. There's one ill trick I can't reveal. Because I don't really. But I mean, it's just a color changing trick that they do.
Yeah.
But it was sick. I thought that was fire. And like those little touches like that were well done to me.
Now there were some sick moments when it came to the special, the graphic, like the special effects. There were certain moments where I was like, oh, that's actually a really cool idea, and the way it's executed, I've actually never seen it executed in that way, especially in this type of, like. I don't want to call it Dungeons and Dragons like film. It is Dungeons and Dragons, but those types of films where you're finding a dragon or you're fighting dwarves and elves and all them type of people, fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just saw some things that were a little bit newer or a newer take on things that I've seen before in other fantasy type films of this caliber. So I thought that was cool, but at the same time, there were times where I thought the special effects looked off. And again, like you said, maybe it's what you're saying, like they're not going to be Lord of the Rings level, but I was just like, I feel like I shouldn't be able to see the flaws like that. Me personally, I saw a lot of flaws.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I thought like, and also I have to say, I think you didn't see some of the like more special effect and intense scenes later on in the film.
Okay, later on. So like, I just got all the crap in the beginning, and then all the cool shit happened after I left.
I don't think it was crap though. What you saw, that's the thing.
Mostly, there was stuff that was cool, but
I gotta give a good pushback to something you said earlier because like I don't like especially when it comes to writing, like the idea that it was Chat GPT or even making that joke, because it's like people put time and effort into shit, whether or not it's insanely great or not. It's like that's a problem that people compare it to to AI, who is just you're feeding something in and it's instantly feeding it back.
That's what it felt like. That's okay to push back. I'm just saying that's how I felt, and I'm not going to take it back. Like I'm not standing in front of someone's home who wrote this and said you suck. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that.
But you are though.
No, I'm not.
You might not be in front of their house.
That this didn't feel like an inspired film. It felt like a bunch of fantasy jargon and random shit thrown in there, and that goes back to for me. And
when I go thing.
And wait, but I could even take it back even further. Remember, I said I have no frame of reference. Now, perhaps as someone with a good frame of reference as yourself, you have more appreciations, you have more ways you can look at it. For me, it just wasn't computing for me.
All right, now see, I didn't say this film was inspired. I'm not sitting here going like, "Oh, Dungeons and Dragons, one of the best films I've seen this year." No, like one of the
I didn't say it was the worst. I just said I didn't enjoy the bit that I saw.
Like easily one of the best films I've seen this year is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It's fucking incredible. It is absolutely incredible from beginning to end. It's one of the best animated films I've ever seen. It's a fucking incredible movie, and it blew me away, and I could not believe how good it was because I absolutely did not expect any of that from that. This is not that. This is a solid movie that I feel like if you're going in, like I said, looking for a Fast and Furious Marvel type film with Dungeons and Dragons veneer, it's giving you all that in spades. And that's like all I was looking for. Now, whether it's like some like, it's not anything like, no, it's not like something where I'm going to that writer's house like, yo, you did that shit, dog. But I'm like, you made some good jokes. You had the storyline it's expected. It's like, it's not, I didn't find it hard to follow at all because it's pretty predictable.
That's what I mean when I'm like, it's predictable from a logic standpoint, like, I'm walking out the door and now I'm outside type thing, but it's from an engagement storytelling perspective, I had trouble. Like when I say following, I mean staying in the story, like being present with them. I did have trouble.
Yeah,
I was
I
like
didn't.
constantly questioning them as they were moving on it.
I
So
didn't have questions like that. I was pretty engaged with the story, and I think it gets a little heavy-handed in the storytelling. But
mm,
at the same time, that's way later, though. Especially the
okay.
heavy-handedness comes at the end of the film. It's super heavy-handed
Okay.
towards the end, where I felt like it didn't need it. But at the same time, I think overall it was a story that I liked, and I liked. It's like it's a family story. And I like that's the thing. I think it's one of them movies where it's going to resonate with families, especially with parents and with their kids, because it's one of those films about a parent and his kid. So I think that's a part of it that I really enjoyed. And then as well as like little things they did, like there's a scene, I won't spoil anything about it, but it's the graveyard scene that I just thought that was really dope storytelling. Once again, it's also something kind of reminiscent of what Marvel has done in the Ant-Man films with Miguel, but in a different way where I thought it was really dope.
That's
And that's
There's
but let me finish. Let
it
me
had
finish my.
places like that.
I know, but let me finish. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like when you have these, like it doesn't have to be original if it's dope. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
if it's well
And
done.
there's nothing original about this movie, and I thought it
Mhm.
was overall well done.
Okay. Did you like the characters
Hell
designs?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. I thought.
Were they supposed to look like puppets?
Wait, what? The characters? What?
I said, were they supposed to look like
No,
puppets?
which characters?
The animal characters. The animals that stood on two legs. Those
I
people.
mean, I'm not expecting them to look like real animals. Like
I'm not either, Benjamin, but listen to what I'm saying. I said they look like puppets, like obvious puppets to me. Was that on purpose?
I'm not sure. I thought they looked like the half orc or orc they introduced at the beginning of the film. I thought
Like
he
that
looked dope.
one or the falcon?
The Falcon thing looked silly, yes, but he's only in it for 5 seconds. It wasn't something where it's a comedic moment too, so I don't think he was supposed to look realistic or even close to it.
I'm not talking about realistic. I'm talking about good. Just good. Good.
I think,
period. Just good.
I think that's
I want to be very clear. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not looking for this to be an original, perfect series. I was just looking for good. Granted, you have to take a lot of what I say with a grain of salt because I did not see nearly the whole movie.
Yes.
But the bit that I saw, I had reservations.
More than them.
Big time.
A lot, yeah, big time. Because, I did not have those reservations. I thought the hawk, condor, eagle, whatever thing it was. That was one thing. There's that, and there's just like Dragon Man, and I really didn't know what the fuck they were because that's beyond my Dungeons and Dragons frame of reference.
Okay. It just looked weird.
I thought there's one thing from Dragonlance that I thought they might be, but they're not. This wasn't the Dragonlance world, so that knocked it out the window. So I didn't know what they were, but it was cool. Like, I wasn't like, oh, what the fuck was that? It was more just like, all right, that was cool. On to the next scene. Yeah.
Right. So beyond that, like, you can help me through this. Like, what compelled you the most about this film? Like besides, like you just said, it was fun. Like, was there just something about? Was it just like a popcorn eating, pleasing type film?
Yes,
or?
this is I said, this is Fast and the Furious. This is a average Marvel film. This is an Ant-Man. This is a Guardians of the Galaxy. This is not some deep ass. This is the beginning of the summer. Like the summer season has now gone on. In Hollywood at least moved all the way up until March. So they're rolling out their average summer movies early now instead of putting them all in September. And this isn't.
So the movie's average.
I never said more than that. Like I said, it's a good, solid.
It's not a gotcha moment. I'm trying to like really understand where you.
I think it's I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's like that's saying I think this is one of those movies like in the long run. Like if you were a kid growing up with it, this is the movie you would watch a lot, especially if you were into Dungeons and Dragons. I think this is one of those movies that like when it's on a Sunday on TNT before the game, which is one of my favorite references, I'm not turning it off because I know the game is coming on anyway, so why change the channel? I'll watch the rest of Dungeons and Dragons until the game comes on. That's the type of movie it is. And then especially there's those certain scenes that if I catch, I'm like, yeah, let me watch that scene because I really enjoyed that. And certain characters, like my man Reggae, Bridgerton.
Reggae?
Yeah, my man Bridgerton, like, absolutely steals the show, and you missed him entirely. And Bridgerton steals the show. Bridgerton plays a paladin. For those who know the lore and just the memes around Dungeons and Dragons, Paladins are hated because they are lawful good. Their alignment is lawful good automatically. They have to be lawful
Ugh,
good, and they're all the way lawful good. They are
that's
basically
annoying.
clerics and fighters together. So they believe in God or a higher power, and they believe in themselves because of that. And so they're usually portrayed as super egotistic and narcissistic and etc.
Very annoying.
And he plays it to the hilt. He absolutely
Mm.
kills it every time he was on screen. I was in love with him. I see why people fucked with him on Bridgerton so tough. He's
Yeah,
good.
I love
Yeah.
him.
He's
It
gonna be in Secret Invasion, so that made me look forward to it. He just absolutely kills it.
was there
So
enough of him?
yes.
Okay.
Because too much of him would have been too much.
Was there were there
yeah.
anyone was there something in the film that you wanted more of or less of?
I could have used more of him just because he was great, but I felt like when he stepped off, his exit is so amazing as well. So it's like, yeah, no, he was pretty damn perfect. I can't lie,
Okay.
you know. I could have
So
used
you
5
wish it
more
was
minutes.
more. Yeah.
5, 10 more minutes maybe, but yeah, overall, no, I thought he was perfect. I really like Sophia Lewis. I've never been that big a fan of Justice Smith, but he was good enough in this
He's
role.
cool. Yeah.
And him and Sophia's relationship was dope, so I liked them on screen.
Did you like Michelle
As
Rodriguez?
much as I love not Fantastic, Fast and the
Furious.
Furious, I've never been the biggest Michelle fan. You know what I mean?
You don't even have to use Fast and Furious. I'm not the biggest Michelle fan. And
But I do like what she represents.
Did you like her depiction?
And I know a lot of people like her because of what she represents. And so I fuck with that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And yeah, I thought she did a very good job. She plays a barbarian, and she is a barbarian to the hilt in this role. And I thought the writing was great around her. There's some, great character moments. Like I say, she's involved in a big cameo that I'm not gonna say anything about, but it's a great scene with her and this other actor who shows up in the film. And I liked her in it. Yeah, I think the writing around her is what really made me like her because they really lean into the barbarian idea. Like they really lean into these archetypes of Dungeons and Dragons, like the druid, the barbarian, the bard, thief, rogue type character. That's Chris Pine. The magician who's struggling. That's Justice. The paladin who's all about himself, but also really about everyone at the same time. Really leans into that well. So I thought all of them were very well done. I thought that what's
think of
his
Chris
name?
Pine specifically.
I've grown to like Chris Pine as he's gotten older. I feel like he grew into his face or some shit, where it's like now I'm feeling him. You know what I mean?
Oh my god!
Like I mean, I know the dude's amazingly handsome. That's not what I'm talking about.
I don't know about that, but okay.
Look, he's one of them cats. I promise you, if you met him in person, you would be like, okay, I get why they pay you the big bucks. It's like I never understood Jude Law, and then I met Jude Law in person. I was like, this nigga's stunning in person. Like it's crazy. I was like, that's why you get millions of dollars, and that's why I'm sitting here interviewing you. It's a difference. Like these dudes, it's something about them. So I'm sure Chris Pine, and I know Chris Pine gets love for that, right? But as he's gotten older, I think his face and he's got, I don't know, it's just he's got this more weight to him as an actor, and so that's why I've enjoyed him in. He was in this dope series on one of the streamers, I can't remember, but I like that, and I loved him in Wonder Woman. He was one of the best parts of Wonder Woman to me. And I thought he was really good in this. Like he portrays the father. That's what I'm saying. He's grown into that fatherly role. And he comes off as someone who's had kids and can relate to that and does that well in this movie. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't like where I think, he's like the emotional weight of the movie. And I'm not 100% where I was like, oh, like there's moments even in the slight Marvel movies where I'll tear up or something. And this one didn't get me to that point. And I know it was trying at points, and that's what I mean with the heavy-handedness with his story. I think that was my problem.
Okay.
But there was this, it's like they're trying to make this reference, and I think they were they needed to make it, so they went a little too heavy-handed. But if they didn't, I wouldn't even have gotten the reference. So it's one of those, damned if you do. Maybe you need a better reference. Maybe
so Robert said maybe not do that reference, and if it's hard to convey.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing with filmmaking. It's like, if you don't do it, then then what's the point? You're at least attempted. They were attempted to do something. It didn't work. I'm not 100%, but they were attempting to do something in a movie that would not have that type of stuff in it anyway. So that's the thing. It's like I thought that, because it was like, why is this in the scene? And then later on, it's like, oh, that's why that was in that scene. And
So
that's why
you're
that meant
giving
something to
them
him.
the points for the attempt. The execution may not have gone over all the way.
It might have been a little too heavy-handed for my taste, but then again, maybe that's what they needed to get the scene across. Like I said, there was nothing in this movie where I was like, oh, what the fuck? It was more just like, oh, this movie's cool. This is not like something where I'm like, yo, y'all gotta rush out to see this. But like I said, if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, if you're a fan of, the Marvel Fast and the Furious formula, then you'll enjoy this. Like I said, if you're a summer, popcorn joint, Sunday afternoon with the kids, matinee, if they still got them, definitely worth it.
How would you say the sound was, like, just in terms of the scoring? Like, do you think like they have the right beats, the right noises at the right time? Like sometimes there's so not remarkable. Okay, because sometimes, especially films like this, when they try to make things epic, they actually have really good scoring.
I missed it
sometimes
if they did. Yeah, I don't know the theme song to the original Dungeons and Dragons. I don't remember that shit. I'm not one of them dudes who remembers every theme song from their childhood.
Okay.
So I don't know, and I don't know of any other pieces of music that are related to Dungeons and Dragons where I would be like, oh, they played that.
Right. But there were enough Easter eggs, or is it more so references?
I mean, as far as like a Dungeons and Dragons references and Easter eggs, and just being in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, there is a ton of that. Like, there is all kind of references to different places, people, history. This takes place, I want to say, in the Forgotten Realms. I'm pretty sure about that because Baldur's Gate is in the Forgotten Realms, and some other shit they mentioned, I think, is in the Forgotten Realms. The Forgotten Realms is like the main setting of Dungeons and Dragons. I think at this point, it's like their what's the world of Lord of the Rings. I can't remember the name of their world or whatever, but Middle Earth. Yeah, it's like their Middle Earth. Yeah, Forgotten Realms is like their Middle Earth. So I think that this takes place in the Forgotten Realms, but there is a massive amount of references to all kind of Dungeons and Dragons shit. Like, there's a little shit that, I mean, that's what, like, even from the trailer, that's when I was like, oh, okay, they're really taking this ish seriously. In the trailer, they have a dragon that flies overhead, and it's a black dragon. And in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, black dragons shoot acid.
Oh, shit.
Or like oil. And this dragon flies over shooting that shit on everyone. And I was like, oh, lit. You know what I mean? There we go.
Lit.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's what makes Dungeons and Dragons not Lord of the Rings and not this one. It's like these little things, like the color-coded dragons. All the evil dragons are like the colors, like red, black, green, blue.
Why the evil dragon gotta be black?
But the good dragons are the gold. That's what we are, the shiners. You know what I mean? The gold, the platinum, the ice.
The ice.
Yeah, that's the dragons who are the good ones. So I like that. Why the black dragon gotta be black? The red one's black too. I mean, evil too. Like shit. They all evil. I don't know.
Damn.
But the silver, gold, and platinum dragons are like the good ones.
The rich niggas.
The rich niggas. Yeah, rich niggas. This is the good ones. Yeah.
I see. Class warfare. I see what's going on.
Pure class warfare. And there was a lot of stuff like that. Like, I would have preferred, this be a Dragonlance world, because then I would have been on every damn reference and been like, oh. But there's just all the stuff that I do love. Like, and it was bringing back so much ish from my childhood. And I know there's so many more people who are into Dungeons and Dragons now because of Critical Role and how popular that became. And there's been a massive explosion in people playing the game now, from kids to adults to everyone. So, like, TSR, the company and West Coast, whatever the name of the company that owns them, blew the hell up, over the last few years. So they are raking in the dough. And that's why we even have this movie now. So there's going to be people who catch all kind of stuff in this film. There are monsters galore. And that's another thing that Dungeons and Dragons is known for. Like, it's very distinct monsters. Like the Displacer Beast, the gelatinous cubes, all the different color-coded dragons, the orcs, the trolls, the mimics. I mean, there's just so many weird, ill things, beholders that are mentioned, like on and on and on. And so there's all this stuff. And there was mad stuff that I saw on screen that I had no idea what it was. So there's to be a lot of stuff for deep heads, who are way deeper than me, who are going to really be into it. So, yeah.
Okay.
And there's also like the cheesy looking Birdman. Yeah, the dude look cheesy. I mean,
I mean, it wasn't the only thing for me, but that's besides the point. So you gave it great reviews. Chico gave it great reviews. And as I said, majority of critics and audience alike gave it rave reviews. And it's done very well, apparently. That being said, are we going to see a sequel with the same people, number one? And are we going to see a sequel, and will you be there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be there for a sequel. I wouldn't even need it to be with the same people. I think the
Okay.
world of Dungeons and Dragons is thorough enough, and like I said, there's so many other worlds within Dungeons and Dragons, and so many different like campaign settings, I guess you would say, that have created different worlds. Like Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms both started off as people just playing the game to the extent where they developed their own whole world, and then they were like, this is good enough, and then they wrote modules for it, and then it became books and novels and everything else. So there's so much already from Dungeons and Dragons. It has such a rich history already, just like Marvel, just like Lord of the Rings. Like, and a lot of the things in Dungeons and Dragons are directly inspired by Lord of the Rings, obviously. Like Lord of the Rings is the big granddaddy of these all. It inspires everyone. So everyone took from it, but Dungeons and Dragons took from it, took from this, took from that, and then mix it all together. And like I said, it doesn't have to be original if it's dope. So I grew to learn this language from Dungeons and Dragons. Like even when I was watching Lord of the Rings, a lot of that stuff was familiar to me because I knew it from Dungeons and Dragons and not specifically Lord of the Rings. 'Cause I'd never read a one of Tolkien before I saw those films. Like I knew nothing about it. But I knew hobbits from general shit, and hobbits are like halflings. And halflings is what they have in Dungeons and Dragons. So it's direct bite of hobbits, obviously, but as a kid, I didn't know that. I grew up on halflings and not hobbits. So it's things like that, or the Kinder, which it's fucking names like that I cannot believe I still remember. That's a Dragonlance version of a hobbit.
Okay. So they're saying it's projected to make about 65 million this weekend.
Is that good?
The global start, though. So, and that's based on pre-sales because the film doesn't even come out technically until Friday, right? Like they've been having screenings and people have been seeing it, and is that good? I mean, there's talks about it might dethrone John Wick 4, as the number one, but as the number one film, not in terms of making money, just the number
John
one
Wick
film because John Wick's been out, right? For 1 week technically. So maybe as far as if 65 good, I mean, it costs 150 million to make.
Yeah, that's what I mean. See, all right, this is something else, right? Because this came up in the YouTube comments this week about people being like, yo, well, John Wick's breaking all the records, so you're just a hater. And I'm just like, look, fam, I never gave a shit about how much a movie costs or how much it makes. It never means 1 second to me. Because other than Black Panther being the number one, that's all I ever cared about. Because other than that, it's like, who cares? Because some of my favorite movies never chart, And I never knew how much they cost to make either. So I'm always just like, well, that's cool. If it makes, I would like it to be number one because I think John Wick being number one is super problematic. But that's a whole other episode that we're gonna have soon. So yeah, I mean, that'd be nice. That'd be cool. I think it deserves it. It's a good movie.
Okay,
nobody's getting shot in the face.
And you said, as far as you know, you don't know if there's 2, but there's definitely one mid-credit scene or after-credit scene. No, mid-credit.
There's one mid-credit scene, and then our screening abruptly ended.
Oh, so it didn't even let you see the rest of the credits. It just ended?
Dog, that shit was the black. They didn't even turn the lights on. It was even worse than Eternals.
Well, the screening wasn't late as far as I knew, so why was they abrupt with it?
I don't know. I don't know. We got no other credits after that. It was like the movie just ended. So, it was a cool little mid-credit scene. Like I said, I thought that graveyard scene was really dope. I really even liked the intro, man. I'm really surprised that you had such issues with it because I really liked that.
Because I just felt like he was talking for mad long, and I was just like, you don't have to. I just don't like the narration I don't like long narration over a scene. Like it's cool to have narration here and there, or if it's that type of film where it's meant to have a narrator that jumps in, cool. But to me, it was just long blocks of text while things were happening, and I was like, I don't need to hear mans right now. So, and again, that was just a very, in aggregate, small portion of the film, but it did bother me.
Yeah, and I like, it's interesting because someone on Twitter, they brought up something about Shazam, right? And they're like, I hate when people do this in movies. And it's when Shazam's fighting the dragon, and he's like, I just punched the dragon, or I just threw a bus at the dragon.
Yes, that's stupid.
No, not trying to be like, so when they explain exactly what they just did. Like, I just threw a bus at the dragon. My life is great.
Right.
It's like, we just saw you throw the bus at the dragon.
Right.
We know you did that. And I didn't feel
Right.
like they were doing that in that scene. But if it was that type of, that could cause discomfort. Because
Well, yeah.
if they did do that, I'd be like, ugh.
It didn't feel like he was telling, like he did it and they told us he did it. Like,
Yeah.
my thing is, it was his musings about the life
Yes.
and the world. And I was over the musings. I was like, all right, fam, we could talk about your thoughts later. I'm trying to, because again, that goes back to what I said about I was starting to have trouble, like, even connecting. Because this nigga is talking about, the facts of life and shit. And I'm just like, my guy, I just want to see what's happening right now. I don't want to hear your voice right now. You could come back later, my guy. But, so what I'm going to do is this weekend or well, maybe not this weekend because I got to be somewhere, but I am going to go back to the theater and actually see it so that I can see in a regular fucking screen or IMAX, but a regular screen, not that 4D shit. No, thank you. I'm going to see it on a regular screen and then like from beginning to end. And I'll tell you about if there's another end credit scene. But I do want to give it another chance because I'm like, everyone in the world damn near saying, yo, this is fun. This is good. And even going into it, I told Ben, when I got there, I said, everyone's telling me this is good.
Me too.
So I was like, all right.
I was, like I said, I was sitting there like, word, when we were talking about before, because I'd heard that. And then you backing it up, baby, like for real, like
that's
everybody.
All I heard, and that's what people are saying. And I gotta get with the waves because I messed it up, bro. I mean,
but it's good to have different opinions, and I think like this could be a movie where people could be surprised that I'm so positive on it because people have been calling me a hater a lot lately, and I'm more
just because people think you're a hater. That's why you're saying that. That it's not a hater.
No, not at all. And I really, dislike being called that because I really just have, and it's even something where I don't even like, someone was like, oh, you're always mad on Twitter and shit. I'm like, I don't even bring stuff up on Twitter anymore. Like there's so many movies I've seen that I don't even bring up because they're just like, whatever, but I bring up things that I find problematic and I don't even like the word problematic, detrimental to society is what I would more say. And I find like, the fact that John Wick is so popular and that so many people see shooting people as a solution to things, I find that very interesting.
America.
And that is why I'm like, look, and we're going to have a very special episode dedicated to this very soon with some special guests. But that's something that I'm really having an issue with. And this is someone who grew up in the 80s on violent action films. But like we discussed before, I wouldn't really think about watching RoboCop anymore because I'm like, damn, that's just promoting police shooting people. But that's a whole nother episode. And so, like, as far as this movie, I don't really think it's something where it's like, they didn't do anything where I was like, oh, what the fuck? It's like,
yeah,
they're pushing like the usual Hollywood agendas of this day of, every couple's mixed and all that shit. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever. I don't mind that. That's fun. So other than that, it's like, it's not doing anything where it's like, oh, we really need to think about this film. It's like, no, just, if you want something to do on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, peep this shit. This, it's good for that.
Were there any LGBTQ plus characters that you remembered? Or even hints? Like, don't know.
I felt like there was going to be, and then I don't think it really went that way at all.
Okay. The fact that it's not like a quick yes means okay.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Does John Wick have any? Or are people too busy getting shot in the face?
Probably the latter. Probably the latter. I was just curious.
My pronouns are blah, blah, blah. Ain't nobody got time for that, son. Hot ones. Your pronouns are dead, dead, and deader.
Is this movie going to be a success this weekend?
Hell yeah, easily, yeah, definitely. It ain't got no comp. That's the thing. That's the thing about like when people are like, "Well, bringing on records." I'm like, they released on a weekend when it had nothing else because all these studios are in cohorts.
What the hell
now.
else were you supposed to see?
Yeah, it's like nobody releases movies up against each other anymore. No one does that. It's all a game of okay, they got this weekend, so we'll take this weekend. That's all it is.
Trying to maximize.
Every studio knows the other studio can't release every weekend, so they're just like, all right, what are you doing? Okay, you got that one? All right, I'm going to get this one. No one is really going like, fuck that, I'm putting this head to head. Creed's opening this weekend. up against John Wick. Nope, it was Creed.
I feel like it's
John
gonna
Wick.
happen again this year, like in December. I feel like there was 2 movies that are releasing like on the same.
And then they're like talk about moving them. I know, because it's always
Oh,
like that.
really?
Yeah, because it's always like that up until the end, you know. And then they're like, oh yeah, because nobody wants to lose their job.
So there's no box office wars anymore.
No, them days is done. I think for the most part, like the only wars happen when it's something like an Avatar, when that hoe just won't go away, and then it's like, well, nigga, my shit is coming out this weekend, so you know we gonna have to see what happens, you know. But that's the thing. No movies even don't go away because they go to streaming. We don't have no movies that do it 5 months in a row like it was way back in the day. You know, it's never anything like that. Even Avatar, which you know, the last Avatar 10 years ago was what, like 4-5 months in a row. Now it's like it was like a month, 3 weeks.
It was like a month. It was a month.
3 weeks. I don't even think it got a month at number one. Because I remember that third week there was something hard coming against it.
But how long
third week there was something big.
How long do films stay in theaters now? Because isn't Creed
4-5 weeks?
Because isn't Creed on the way to being streamed now?
4-5 weeks. Like most movies don't make number one for more than a week or 2 weeks at max. So 6 weeks they're out of the theaters. You know, guaranteed. Gotcha. Yeah. They ain't drawing in the money no more.
Right. Any other thoughts you wanted to share about Dungeons and Dragons?
No, like I said, I really enjoyed. I was not expecting to enjoy Justice like I did. I did enjoy him and Sophia a lot. I really like their chemistry on screen together, and I think just Sophia's chemistry in general. Michelle, Chris, you know them. That's the thing. I know them already, so I know what they bring into the table. These two, I didn't really know as much, and I really liked them for it. Hugh Grant, I'm always up and down on him. Like, I hated him when I first saw him in films, and then I started liking him in certain joints. And then when he plays an asshole, I really like him, and he's an asshole in this. But I wasn't blown away. I don't know.
Is he rude in real life? He gives me that I'm rude in real life.
Yeah, he does, right? And I think that's why I didn't fuck with him, especially when he was young, because he was like, and he was one of them dudes who like, how you feel about Chris Pine when they were like, oh my God, look at Hugh Grant. I'm like, this nigga don't look like nothing. What are y'all talking about? Like, look at Hugh Grant for what? You know? I was about to diss a black actor and I won't do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was one of the ones where I was like, come on, be for real. You know, like, no, this man is not leading man energy. I'm sorry, man. No.
Yeah.
I don't get it, you know? And that was Hugh Grant. But, you know, as an asshole, I like him. And I just figured he needed more asshole in this. I think that was what it was. When he was an asshole in this, I enjoyed him. But I needed more of that, you know? I needed that, especially for the role, I needed that turned up to 20. You know, he was about an 8, 7, maybe. I need that whole, I need you chewing every scene you're in. You know, I mean, just chewing through it. Like, nah. I need villain, or, you know, characters to be in a different, like, whole different ass movie than the movie that, you know, that he was in. The rest of the people in. I need him to be on another movie, you know, that's a turned up ass movie, you know, like, and then they're just in this movie. That's how I need my villains, you know, the fuck up.
Like I said, I am definitely going to take the time to watch the film in its entirety in a theater so I can not replicate. God, no, don't want to replicate that experience, but just to have a better experience just from get go, and then actually see the whole thing through and see what all the fuss is about.
I'm actually really surprised that it's 90% from both critics and audiences.
It is. How you think I felt when I said nigga? I saw such a small percentage of the film in hindsight, but I was like, nigga, y'all, I like that shit like that, and I was Googling, and it said 90. I believe it's like 90 critics, 94% audience, or somewhere in that range.
That's insane because I was not looking forward to it. The trailers, besides the little bits of things where they had the lore so on point, I was like, okay, so they're taking this seriously. But I could already feel the Marvel Fast and the Furious vibe from it, and I was like, because I'm kind of getting sick of the Marvel and even Fast and Furious vibe, sadly. And so, but this was like a throwback to the good Marvel Fast and the Furious vibe. So that's what it was. It like captured that essence, you know, and it feels like a factory done film. Like, I will not deny that, you know. I won't say it's like some chat GPT shit, but it's definitely like, these niggas were like, okay, this is what makes Marvel and Fast and Furious hit. We gonna hit all these marks, you know? And they did that, you know? And like whether they hit those marks to the level, and also if you've seen them and are sick of those marks, you might be like, eh. I wasn't like, yeah. I was like, okay, you're doing those marks, but it's working. And then there's so much Dungeons and Dragons stuff on top of it where I'm like, hey. Like, I just could not believe that I remembered some of this shit while I was watching the film. I was like, oh my God, you're a fucking dork, man. You are This is why
It
you
shows
were a
that you
virgin
felt
for
like-
so long.
You felt like more of a dork watching this film?
Oh, definitely. Like, I mean, because I said, like, I grew up, like, when I grew up, it was role-playing games and comic books in the exact same, you know, like, love, fervor, I think is the word, right? So, and as I grew up, I fell off role-playing games. You know, like you, I moved to RPGs on computers, etc. You know, and your friends, we move away from each other, so you can't keep it up like that. And so it's like I didn't get to always play, you know, role-playing games except for on the computer and stuff. So I still kept up on the lore, especially like with Warhammer, and you know, you got me back into painting recently, so I always kept up on the lore, especially Warhammer. Like I'll stay reading, you know, wiki all night on that for no reason. But with Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not as up on it. I don't read the books like I used to. So this was more like it was shocking to me. You know, it was like, oh shit, like that's what was so ill to me. It was like, damn, our brains are so powerful, right? Because it was like stuff I had not thought about or remembered forever. Decades. Like even the tagline, Honor Among Thieves, there was an image in the original, I want to say it's the Dungeon Master's Guide, in like one of the original printings of it. There's this image of a dude stabbing another dude in the back and stealing the gold from him.
Oh shit.
And they're in like a room full of treasure. And it's like, there is no honor amongst thieves was the tagline beneath that. And that image as a kid messed me up. Because I never heard that phrase before. And I'm like, oh, that's a cold-blooded phrase. And, you know, he got all this treasure around. He's still stabbing the other dude. There ain't no honor amongst thieves. Like, that shit was cold-blooded. So, you know, like, and that popped in my head. Yeah, because I didn't think about it until we're in the theater and then the tagline shows up on the screen. I'm like, oh, that's why it's Honor Amongst Thieves, because that's from that original printing of Dungeons and Dragons. So it's all that little stuff for me that I loved. And then they do some really cute stuff. Like there's some really cute stuff with the dragon, again, with the main dragon in the film, not the black one. There's another dragon in the film that it's not in the trailer at all. And I was like, wow, that's really fucking hilarious, you know, and something I have not seen.
That's good. And you complain how trailers show too much, so.
No, and it made me want to go back and watch the trailer because they show you the dragon in the trailer, but they don't show you what's going on with this dragon, is what I'll say. You know, they do not show you that. And I was like, oh shit, like, how did they do that? Did they just, they must have just like not shown you all of the dragon, because it's, you know, it's more to it than that.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was really great.
Once I see it again, when we have another episode, we're just gonna do an addendum where I can just tell you how I feel about it fully, you know.
I want to know.
I really hope, I don't want to like have the same exact reaction as you. You know, I want to have my own opinion, but I do hope it's better than, you know, seeing it in full, and also the things that I saw as like nagging flaws, perhaps that just goes away as I continue watching.
Yeah, because I think people are gonna be really surprised by your reaction too.
I'm sure of it, but also
for once, I'm not the hater.
I'm not a hater, but again, grain of salt. I haven't seen the whole thing, so I can't give you a full opinion quite yet.
All right. Well, I think that is it for our review of Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which was, we didn't shout them out, you know, since we kind of dissed and bid them up. Let's shout out the writers: Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daly, and Michael Gillow. Took all three of y'all. And Chris McKay and was also involved on the story. It was directed by John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to everybody else involved. Like, once again, shout out to my man, Regine John Page.
You say his name 10 different ways.
In 10, 20 different real ways. At least we ain't calling you Reggae John over here, bro. So be happy. But Black Bridgerton, you know, black dude from Bridgerton.
That's wow. Like, that's better. Like, one day he's not gonna want to be known like that.
Soon he's to be my man from Secret Invasion. So, and then I will, you know, And that was the thing. This made me so hyped for Secret Invasion, because I was like, yo, dude is dope. And I hope they give him mad time in Secret Invasion now. Because there was a shot of him. I think he might be a Skrull. I'm not sure. But there's a shot of him in the trailer where it's like 5 of him sitting in the room at once. And I was like, oh, that was fire. And I can't wait to see what this dude does now, because he rules in his short time in this movie. You know, so I'm hyped. So, yeah, shout out to all y'all. Thank you, as always, for listening. This has been For All Nerds. As always, make sure you're following us on all the better platforms out there, on all the social medias. Look, by the time you hear this, I don't know how much to be left of Twitter, but we over there too, at ForAllNerds, Instagram at ForAllNerds, on twitch.tv/ForAllNerds, where you can see our beautiful faces. You can catch me DJing. Soon, once Tatiana gets her setup finished, she'll be doing other stuff on there. Who knows what? Also, follow us on youtube.tv/ForAllNerds. Just go into YouTube, type in ForAllNerds, hit follow, hit that like button when you're on there on any videos, when you're once again watching our beautiful faces and all the other stuff we're doing on there. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. You can head over to ForAllNerds.com, the premier geek and pop culture merch site. Like, you already know For All Nerds as the podcast, the media empire that you know and love. And now you know ForAllNerds.com. It's in the name, ForAllNerds.com. We got all kind of fire designs. You can peep me wearing this one right here. That's a T'Challa and Friends design. Oh, we about to come with a revamp one of this for the summer. I'm gonna let y'all know there's to be a new colorways coming for this. Plus, we got my man Sketch Sawyer, Latina Scribbles doing the illest, and I mean illest designs.
Going in. Oh my God.
It's something major coming. You're going to see us everywhere very soon. Look out for us. When you see these ads popping up for ForAllNerds.com, let us know. Make sure you head over there. Even if you don't cop anything, just leave your email, because that way you get alerted to when we got new ish dropping, and we got some new ish dropping. I'll just say, because we're about to come back next week with some more reviews of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So, we got something dropping related to The Mandalorian from the man, Sketch Sawyer himself. It's
beautiful.
Too beautiful. It's amazing. I think that's everything. Oh, yeah. Patreon.com/ForAllNerds, where you can also support the mission directly. That's how we do all these things. That's how I got all these lights, camera, action going on around me that you see. That's how we do all the various things. Like we heading out to LA very soon. Can we talk about that? I think that's the paperwork ain't signed yet.
Right. It's like I hate saying anything until the paperwork is in. So
no, we will not discuss anything. But it looks like we will be in LA first week of May, May 2nd especially. So if you're in Los Angeles, May 2nd, keep your calendar open. That's what we can say for that. And also, if you're in DC, October 19th, you can definitely, you ain't got to worry. You can keep your calendar open, because October 19th in Washington, DC, we will be at the Smithsonian, at the the NHAAMC, the Black Smithsonian, in the Oprah Room. For All Nerds.
History of African American
music and culture. Right? I think. You got
Museum
of Culture. Something. I'm fucking it up. Right? All the way. The butcher
We're gonna be there. That's all y'all need to know.
Yeah, the butcher names is Bat Baby. All long-term listeners know what I'm talking about. But yeah, we're gonna be there October 19th doing a panel on Afrofuturism in the Oprah Room to complement the exhibit on Afrofuturism that is open now for all of y'all. But we gonna be there October. You know what that week is. You know it's homecoming. It's Howard HU. It's going down. We'll be there. So, oh my God. Again, shout out to my man DJ Money on that one. We in the house, DC. Y'all know me. Y'all love it. I can't wait. Oh my man. I'm planning some parties for that week. Whoo! Big things are coming. Big things
going
are
up.
It's going up. Yeah. What is it? Yesterday's price.
It's not today's price. Okay. Peace.
Fan Bros.